It's like everyone says you are what you eat, but I feel like we should say you are what you think. Because if you think you're not going to hit the ball, or if you think you're not going to get cast on the Amazing Race, the chances are you won't. Your thoughts are the most important asset in your desire to achieve your dreams. The truth is, your thoughts are responsible for whatever place you are in right now. Your thoughts are energy. Your thoughts drive your life, just as electricity drives a motor. There is power in thoughts, whether it's positive or it's negative. Choose positive thinking, and you will enjoy positive energy and positive results. In other words, remember that even if you can't change the circumstances of your life, you can always change your attitude. And finally, to achieve. Over and over, people have asked Shane and me how we stayed so positive throughout the race. And the truth is, because we were so determined and we believed that we had a good shot in the competition, and we agreed we had to be smooth and focused and supportive. We knew that there was no room for negativity, and this is what we felt really separated us from the other teams, and you could see that if you watched our season. I'm proud to say that I, unlike a few others, never had a complete meltdown during my stint on reality TV. But you can't go on the Amazing Race expecting that you won't be challenged. The race is an emotional, a physical, and a mental competition, and we expected the worst. We knew that we'd be thrown into some of the most challenging situations. But just as in life, there are going to be moments where you are stressed to the brim, you're tired, and you're irritable, and you're faced with an overwhelming task that seems impossible to accomplish. Everyone goes through these moments, but those who train themselves to take on a positive attitude and worry about themselves and not the uncontrollable influences around them will be happier and a lot more pleasant to be around and more successful in life. So let's just look at the worst possible scenario. Let's say that all this positive thinking crap is nonsense, and you just spent the whole day thinking positive thoughts and nothing happened. Aren't you still better off than if you spent the whole day thinking negative, pessimistic thoughts? So during the final leg of the race in Las Vegas, Shane and I arrived at the last challenge 10 minutes after the other two teams. Our task was to count $1 million in poker chips, and before we could get the clue to the finish line. As soon as we arrived in the high-stakes poker room at the Monte Carlo, we didn't think about the other teams who already had their stacks piled up pretty high, but instead we focused on ourselves and we encouraged each other, and we never said one positive word. Meanwhile, we heard the other team say, "Uh-oh, Meghan and Shane are here." And, "Stop, you're doing that wrong." And, "Oh my gosh, I don't want to lose, hurry up." That was encouraging to us. And fortunately, we got our system down and we were the first team to leave that room. We felt that our positive energy and our continuous optimism was a major advantage. It reminds me of one of my favorite stories, the story of Colonel Sanders. Not Mayor Jerry Sanders, but the Colonel from KFC. He started traveling by car to different restaurants and took his fried chicken and cooked it on the spot for restaurant owners. If the owner liked the chicken, then the restaurant would sell the chicken, and for each piece sold, he would give Sanders a nickel. Colonel Sanders heard 1,009 no's before he ever heard a yes. This tells me that he was either one positive thinker or he lived a miserable life. By 1964, Colonel Sanders had 600 franchises selling his trademark chicken. In 1976, the Colonel was ranked as the world's second most recognizable celebrity. So, if I've convinced you, if you are going to be more positive, the perfect time to start is now. It will surely take time, but once it works for you, you'll realize that it makes life a lot more enjoyable. And just like everything else, you learn from experience, and it gets easier the more you practice. Because of the traveling I've done, I don't get anxious when I step on a plane anymore. And because of my dad's lesson about believing, I'm confident to hit a baseball when I step up to the plate. And because I've done hundreds of interviews since The Amazing Race, I'm okay with public speaking. All of these experiences have given me the opportunity to gain confidence, and therefore I'm able to confront challenges with a positive attitude. Life is what you make of it, and only you have the power to decide how you want to approach it. So as I said before, I live by the saying, conceive, believe, and achieve. But I'd like to add one more word to that, and it'd be repeat. Conceive, believe, achieve, and repeat. So as you obviously know now, Shane and I have been huge fans of The Amazing Race, all the way back to season 1. I can remember my favorite part of every episode was when those final 3 teams were racing to the finish line, where all the eliminated teams are waiting, lined up in a row, cheering and clapping, just waiting to see which smiling team turns the corner and runs towards the finish line first. Season after season, I would bawl my eyes out as I watched that team as they stood on the mat emotionally and physically exhausted after racing 1 whole month with little food, sleep, and comfort. Experience the incredible thrill of host Phil Kogan saying, "After 45,000 miles, 4 continents, and 19 cities, you are the official winners of The Amazing Race." And those of you who have seen the show know this moment. It's pretty amazing. So this is what drove me to be on the Amazing Race, and this is the first step to conceive. When we were on the race, we ran wherever we could, off the plane, to the cab, through the airport, to the clue box, everywhere. We figured if we were the first ones to the cab, we would gain a minute on everyone else. We asked people to help us on the streets. At customs, we asked people nicely if we could go ahead of them. When buying tickets, we asked seats closest to the exit. On the plane, we asked about our destination, the currency, if they had maps, what the weather was like, anything that would give us an advantage. We focused on teamwork and staying positive, and this is the second step, to believe. During the final leg of the race, and I'm almost finished, during the final leg of the race on the plane from Prague to Las Vegas, we heard music for the first time in 1 month. It was the Black Eyed Peas song, "Tonight's Gonna Be a Good Night." Shane and I knew the race was gonna end that night, and we said to ourselves over and over to each other, "Tonight's gonna be a good night, tonight's gonna be a good night," throughout the entire leg. With a lot of hard work and a little bit of luck and a whole lot of teamwork, we were that lucky team that got to turn the corner first, where all the eliminated teams lined up in a row, cheering and clapping and waiting. That moment was so surreal as we stood on the mat emotionally and physically exhausted after racing 1 whole month with little food, sleep, and comfort. Phil said to us, "After 45,000 miles, 4 continents, and 19 cities, Meghan and Shane, you are the official winners of The Amazing Race." And I will tell you that night was a good night. And this is the third and final step, to achieve. Now I will figure out my next big dream and repeat. So thank you guys very much.